Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a pretty big 10-game slate here for the NBA on DraftKings and FanDuel. It's a pretty interesting slate here. Overall, I do think the slate is pretty good considering a lot of these slates tend to be extremely injury prone, which this one is, but I do think most of the injuries are pretty well known already, and so that does help a little bit. We do have some questionable tags, though, that we do have to take a look at. Let's go ahead and get into the injury report. So for the Cavs, we have Mobley questionable and Garland doubtful. Then for the Raptors, we have Van Vliet questionable, Achua questionable, and Porter out. For the Pelicans, Ingram and Nance are out. For the 76ers, Embiid is questionable. For the Lakers, Walker fourth and is questionable, and Davis is out. For the Hornets, Oubre Jr. is out, and Smith Jr. is questionable. For the Spurs, Vassell is questionable. For the Mavs, Dorian Finney-Smith and Keebler are out. For the Suns, Sengun is questionable and Tate is out. For the Wolves, Towns is out, Prince is out, and McLaughlin is out. For the Hawks, Capella is out and Hunter is questionable. For the Warriors, Curry, Wiggins, Kuminga, Jam Green, and Wiseman are all out. For the Pistons, Cunningham is out and Hayes is out. For the Trailblazers, Nurkic is questionable and Winslow is out. For the Heat, Martin is questionable, Butler is probable, Dedmon is out, Vincent is questionable, Robinson is questionable, and Jovic is out. And for the Clippers, Batum is questionable. So with that said, let's get into my picks for each game. I have the Lakers over the Hornets, the Bulls over the Cavs, Toronto over Indiana, Pelicans over Philly, Brooklyn over Spurs. I have Denver over Minnesota, Dallas over Houston, Atlanta over the Warriors, Portland over Detroit, and Miami over the Clippers. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the players that I do like today. Obviously, there's lots of injuries, so take some of these. We're not going to know real good about certain situations until late. But let's go ahead and see. My core play here is Karis LeVert. With the injuries to the Cavs, he's going to get a front load of minutes. His price has still not come up enough yet for that situation where he's playing 30 plus minutes. He's got nice upside here, and I expect him to have a big game as a result. As you can tell, the last couple games he's been really good, and he's had some really big games all season long. So it's just a matter of him being in a situation where he gets to start. And in this particular situation, that's where he is. I'm also gonna add Kevin Looney for Atlanta here. Sorry for the Golden State Warriors here, not Atlanta. He's got to have all the minutes he can handle today. His price is pretty good, and he's got nice upside in this matchup with the minute situation. With them only having really a couple guys, him and Draymond Green really are the only guys that they're gonna be able to play at that position today. So I'm gonna add him there. I didn't have him initially. Then we're gonna look at DiVincenzo for Golden State Warriors. Now his price point is high, but he's gonna get all the minutes he can handle. His ceiling is pretty low though, so do keep that in mind. It's in the mid 30s. I don't expect him to have like a 40 fantasy point game or something, but he could pay off here. He's viable on the slate in a kind of up tempo matchup here. And then Klay Thompson. Now he's had some really nice games lately in the mid 40s. His ceiling is really good for his price, but his floor is really low, just the same. So just keep that in mind. He's been inconsistent, obviously because he's a scoring guard for the most part, but he's been playing pretty well. So I do think he's viable on the slate at his price point. Then we'll look at Kyrie Irving for Brooklyn. Now he's been playing really good lately, and so has Brooklyn. They've been on a nice win streak, and I look for that to continue here. As long as he's playing well and having fun, then he always has big time upside, and his price is still pretty reasonable. I really did expect to see it over 9,000 today when I opened up uh, DraftKings, but for him to be at 8,700 bucks, he's still viable on the slate. Gives him some nice upside as a result. Then we'll look at LaMelo Ball, who's got a nice matchup here against the Lakers. Even though he is over $10,000 now, and he'll probably stay there, he's played really well and consistent lately, and I expect him to continue that. He's definitely got a nice upside in this matchup here. And then Luka Doncic. I mean, what do you say about this guy? He has been playing out of his absolute mind lately. For the last 5 games, over 80 fantasy points. That's just crazy. Including a 60-point game in his last game against the Lakers. So he's just been playing out of his mind. Houston is not going to have much resistance here, even though that they were the lowest field goal percentage in the last 5 games that he's shot. the last time he played. He had a triple-double in that game and scored 35 points. Hardly a bad game where he scored 81 fantasy points. So I expect him to have a similar type game again. He is playing at a super high level, and he's somebody I've got to consider regardless of everybody else simply because of how good he's playing right now. And then Ty Jerome looks pretty interesting today, though he is a little bit risky when it comes to minutes. There's so many guys out for them. He's bound to get around 20 to 25 minutes at least. And he has a little bit of upside here. I don't love him, but I don't hate him. And I thought he's a good value play, especially if you're trying to fit in Luka and some other guys. So he is somebody to take a look at here. Then we're going to look at Sadiq Bey for the Detroit Pistons. Now he's got a pretty decent matchup here, and he's been playing pretty well lately. He's back as a starter now. And as long as the game stays relatively good, then he should be getting a full complement of minutes here. He's been a little bit inconsistent throughout the season, and he didn't start for a little while. But as long as he's starting, he has decent upside, and his price point is reasonable. So he's a good value play, especially if you're trying to pay up for other guys. Draymond Green also looks interesting today because he's been playing well with Curry out. He's doing more assist situation, bringing the ball up the court kind of stuff. And so he's ended up shooting a little bit more. He doesn't shoot a ton, but he has been playing pretty well, and so I think he's viable on the slate regardless. I think he's got some upside as a result. Then we'll look at Buddy Hield for Indiana. He has been playing pretty good lately. The Pacers have been really bad and inconsistent, but he has some upside here. With Halliburton being kind of hobbled some, he has taken more of the offensive situation and shooting more. I do like him at this price point in this particular matchup too, where it's a little fast-paced game, and so I think he's viable here. He's not a must-play, but he's still decent. And LeBron James, as long as Davis is out, he's gonna have good opportunity. And the last game, probably my favorite quote that LeBron ever had in his entire career. I've always been kind of a not as huge fan of LeBron simply because he doesn't always put in the effort. But last game he said, well, I kept scoring around 25 points a game, and that wasn't getting us wins, so I decided to score over 30 for a change. So if he continues with that mindset, then he's going to be somebody you have to take a look at, especially playing 35 to 40 minutes a game. And if he can score, 30 plus regular points again today, his chances of having a big game are good again. He's played really well with Davis out as well because he does have to take over a lot of the offense, and so he's viable on the slate. Then we're going to look at Kevin Looney. Oh, I already talked about Looney, I'm sorry. We're going to look at Miles Turner here for Indiana. Now, he has been really up and down all season long. He has a very low floor, in the mid-20s, which isn't ideal, but his price is still pretty good, and he's had 2 really big games in a row, and if he can continue to score and get a lot of rebounds and stuff like he has the potential to do, then he can definitely pay off here. He just hasn't been hitting those marks lately. That's why his prices come down so much. But he's very inconsistent, but he is viable on the slate. Then we're going to look at Okongwu for Atlanta. Sorry. He has been playing really well with Capella out, and I look for that to continue. His price has popped up a little bit, but he's still viable here. And then finally, last but not least, the Joker for Denver. He has been playing not quite as good as Luka, but I mean, he's had triple doubles on nearly every game lately. He's had a bunch of them. I think 7 in the last 10 games is the number here, so or maybe 6. And he has just been playing extremely good. His minutes are the big concern because a lot of times he's only playing around 30 or so minutes. He's had a few games that are bigger, but he's been going for triple doubles every game, and he's playing well. And he's got a nice plus matchup here against Minnesota, who is a pretty fast-paced team, and he'll get a lot of opportunities because they shoot a lot of jump shots. So, and their big guys are also not in the greatest situation. So, with that said, guys, that's what I have for DraftKings. Let's get over to FanDuel. Now, FanDuel has been kind of an enigma lately. The pricing over here has not been ideal. I don't love it today, but I'm probably not gonna play FanDuel myself, but just because the pricing is a lot higher than it is on DraftKings. But we're gonna start with Luka. He's been playing extremely well lately. He's just had some massive game after massive game. His price point is still okay here at 12,400, and he's got a nice plus match against Houston, so I think he's one of the best plays on FanDuel. Then we're going to look at LaMelo Ball, who fits that other fits that situation as well. Just been really, really good lately. Only one bad game in the last few games, and he's got a nice matchup here against the Lakers, who he should dominate. Then we'll look at Kyrie Irving for Brooklyn. He's also playing extremely well. The Brooklyn Nets have been extremely good since he came back from being suspended, and I expect him to continue his onslaught. Now, his price point here on FanDuel is not super ideal because it's pretty much capping him at a ceiling for FanDuel, but he's playing good enough and he's consistent right now, so I think he's viable. Klay Thompson, his price point is okay. He has some upside here, but he's been inconsistent. But with all the injuries to the team, he's going to get more shot attempts, and so that gives him some upside because he's scoring dependent. Then we'll look at LeBron, who's been playing really well with Davis out. Now, his price point, again, another guy where he has upside, but isn't super ideal because of the price. But he's viable on the slate regardless. Then we'll look at Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors. Now, his price point is pretty reasonable for what he can do here. He's having to do more because of Curry being out, and so that's actually benefited him quite a bit, and so he's been getting a few more shots and stuff like that, and getting more assists than he had been getting earlier in the season. And I think his upside is pretty good here. We know he can get triple doubles occasionally too, and this kind of situation where he has a good opportunity to do so. Then we'll look at Miles Turner at $7,400. Now he is up and down all season long. His ceiling is high, but his floor is very low. And with that situation, he's played good the last two games, so he's somebody to take a look at. Though he's probably not somebody I would. I don't love him because the price is higher here on FanDuel than DraftKings, but he's still viable. Then Kevin Looney, I look for him to have a lot more minutes today than he had been having. Just with all the injuries to the team, I mean, how is he not going to get more minutes? I don't know. But his price point at 5,200 isn't super ideal. Again, he's a lot more than DraftKings, but he's still viable on the slate. And then we're going to look at Pascal Siakam here for Toronto. He's been playing pretty well. He had a couple off games, but in the last 10, but he has nice upside here. His price point is kind of reasonable, especially in a plus matchup against Indiana. And then last but not least, the Joker for Denver. He has been just playing out of his mind lately. He has no games under 50 fantasy points since the beginning of December, and I expect that to continue here. Obviously, his price point has popped up a lot, but he's still viable. He's been playing extremely well, gets plenty of minutes, and has nice upside. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.